I am the master of procrastination, and I have been procrastinating about making this video for quite a while now. Realistically, I'm just a little bit in denial about how much this whole project has cost us so far. Hiya folks, and welcome back to the show. Today I am going to be answering that question that a lot of you have been asking. How much have we spent in total so far on this little 1920s semi-detached house renovation project? Well, today I'm going to tell you exactly how much we've spent, not just on the extension, but on everything, the whole renovation from start to where we are now. And I'm doing this not as some weird brag about how much money we've spent or how much money we've even potentially saved, but really I'm doing it for all you people out there who are thinking of doing a renovation, because hopefully this is going to be a bit of an eye-opener. I've seen quite a few videos over the years of people telling you how much projects like this cost, but invariably they leave out so much stuff. It's really not a true reflection. And if you're going into a project like this, maybe you're going to buy a property at auction, or maybe you've just seen a gorgeous house that needs a lot of work done to it, you need to understand, especially in this day and age, how much it's going to cost, and it ain't cheap. I would say we've done this as cheaply as you can possibly do it. We've done probably at least 50% of the work ourselves. Any work that we haven't done directly ourselves has been done by trusted tradespeople who we've known for a long time, and we know they're not ripping us off. So I really think you would struggle to do it any cheaper than we've done this. If you want to hazard a guess before we start as to everything we've spent so far, pop it down in the comments below. Don't include the studio room, don't include tools and all that. So I'm just going to be talking about basically taking it from a dilapidated 100-year-old 3-bed semi to a modern day efficient family home. I would say this is probably a 1 in 100-year renovation, maybe a 1 in 50-year renovation. But if you're buying an old property that has never been touched, pretty much everything that I'm going to be telling you about is probably going to need done to it. So for simplicity, I'm going to kind of split this into 3 parts. Part 1 is for the main renovation, Part 2 is for the extension, and Part 3 is for mostly fit out of the extension. I'll give you a little bit more information about why we've even bothered doing this renovation later on, because we could have saved a lot of money just by staying in the new build that we were already in. Kind of more about whether or not we'd buy another new build in a later video, so do hit subscribe. But I'll not keep you waiting any longer. Let's dive straight into it. So the main renovation to the property. So this is before any major building work started. I'll kind of go through this roughly in chronological order, but it doesn't always work out like that. One of the first things that we had to do was to fit a brand new water supply, because we were still on an old lead supply and the water pressure was absolutely terrible, not to mention the lovely brown gunk that was inside our water pipes. We also had a new gas supply fitted for our combi boiler, because the property had never had gas. Pretty much all of the drainage needed to be refreshed because all of the gullies were broken. There were a couple of minor structural issues to sort out, including a bit of a crack in the bathroom wall upstairs, and one of the downstairs supporting walls was held up by thin air. There was a substantial amount of new electrics and a new RCBO consumer unit, new data cabling throughout, brand new central heating system because the property had no central heating before. We insulated under all of the downstairs floors. With it being a semi-detached property, we fitted soundproofing in pretty much every room between ourselves and our neighbours, bar one room that we didn't bother, but we might do that at a later date. Watch this space. We had the chimney lined and all serviced, and a brand new high efficiency wood burning stove fitted. New bathroom suite, new double glazing throughout. After all of that work, the whole property needed replastered from top to bottom. There was various external works that needed carried out, including new fencing, and a giant birch tree that was too close to the property needed to be taken out. New shed in the back garden, I've included that in these costs as well. Everyone needs a shed. And there was also various kind of miscellaneous costs, so boarding out the loft, lots of skips and general decoration from top to bottom. So all of that core renovation work came out at a total of £31,826.35 so far. Then there were the costs for the extension, and before I explain all that, let me just give you a little bit of background about why we've done this project in the first place. Because a lot of you will raise a valid point. Why bother? Why not just buy a new house or a house that's already had all this work done to it? We took the decision, quite a long time ago now, over 10 years ago, to downsize quite considerably. We wanted to structure our lives so that I wasn't stuck in a corporate job, working away from home half the time. And in order to do that, we had to make some sacrifices. We sold a really big house that we had a very big mortgage on. From that, we bought a new build, which was pretty much the same size, but it was much, much cheaper than the older big house that we were in. And really, we wanted to go down the new build route because at that point, we'd done a lot of renovations. Our family was really young. So we had 7 great years in a new build property where the kids enjoyed playing outside with all their mates. It was dead close to the local first school. But then as the kids got older, we found this property that was much, much closer to the local high school. We knew that it would need an enormous amount of work done to it. But as I say, because the kids are older, they're not really bothered about that. They're out with their mates most of the time anyway. But I would say in the top 5 reasons of why we bought such a dilapidated property was so that the kids could walk to their middle school and high school. That in itself is a huge tick in the box. Not to mention obviously the back garden. We knew how much potential the property had. It's in a good area. So there were certainly sacrifices to make because going from the new build, we've downsized again, moving to this place. This is much, much smaller than the new build we were in. But we figured with a bit of hard work, we could turn this property around and it would be pretty much the same size as the new build that we had, but with a giant back garden, and would be in a location that would be much more convenient for our kids to grow up in until they leave home. You know, it's much closer to the local high street, much closer to town. So yeah, although it was a very broken house, it ticked a lot of boxes. But all I would say is there's got to be some serious advantages to doing the sort of work that we've done on this property to make it worthwhile. Otherwise, you might as well buy a property that's already been renovated or buy a new build. Anyway, the extension. So because this was a relatively small 3-bed semi-detached house, 2 double bedrooms, 1 quite small single bedroom, tiny kitchen, not a particularly big living room, we really needed to do some work to make the property a bit bigger, and because the back garden was so big anyway, it made sense extending out the back, which is pretty much what every other house on the street has already done. So all we did was we built on top of the existing garage to make the 3rd bedroom into a nice big master bedroom with ensuite, and we added a big kitchen diner onto the rear of the property that joins onto our living room. As you're probably aware, we ended up doing the extension as a kind of self-build project where we managed all of the trades and did as much work that we could do ourselves, we did do ourselves. So all of the work that we did on the extension, that includes all of the planning permissions, architect fees, structural engineer fees, party wall award. And by the way, if you want to know more about party wall stuff, I've made a couple of videos over on the member zone going into party wall agreements and party wall awards in quite some detail. So if you want to know more about that, head over to the member zone and you can find those videos there. All of the groundwork, so all the foundations, drainage, everything like that, all of the brickwork, insulation, structural timber work, all of the structural steel work, the actual roofing, all of the windows and doors for the extension, rendering, plastering, plumbing, electrics, waste management, all that jazz. That came in at a grand total of £53,054.17. Again, so far, but I think that pretty much covers everything on that side. There's not really any leftover lingering projects on the extension side that I can think of. A big shout out at this point to Tim and Joe over at the Restoration Couple. If you're not following their channel, give them a follow. It's absolutely brilliant and they're doing some amazing work at the moment on their farm that they've bought. But interestingly, our extension minus all the planning fees was about 47.5 grand. It was almost exactly the same as what Tim and Joe have spent on their cabin build. So they've kind of got a full house out of it. We've just got an extension. But I just thought that was really interesting that their projects come in almost to the penny of what our project cost. Go and check them out if you haven't, link down in the description below. But do bear in mind that the 53 grand is just the shell extension. It's literally an empty extension with no kitchen, no fit out or anything like that. So in order to fit out the extension, there was a brand new ensuite in the bedroom, so shower, sink, toilet, all the decoration, all that sort of thing. There was a kitchen, including all appliances, all of the new flooring, fitting out the garage, so basically getting my workshop back, and various exterior bits and pieces just to tidy things up as well. It doesn't include the decking project, which unfortunately we've had to postpone because the weather this year has been so bad. We've basically took the decision we'll tackle that project next year, and we brought a couple of projects forward this year. For example, the greenhouse build, which we've started on, more about that later on, and a couple of other projects getting like the utility room finished and various other things. So basically the fit out of the extension came to a grand total of £16,094.15. So as I say, I haven't catered for any of the tools we've bought. I've probably spent best part of 5 grand on tools, but there's a lot of tools we'll either be selling or we'll keep hold of. More about all that in a separate video, because when you're in an inflationary climate, sometimes it's a good idea to buy tools. You'll probably find that it's cheaper to buy certain tools, use them, and then you can probably sell them for more or less what you bought them for. Or just keep hold of them if you're planning on doing another project. So yeah, haven't included tools, and I haven't included the build of the studio room because that's kind of irrelevant for most people. And as I say, I haven't included the greenhouse project because, again, that's quite niche, and I'm going to cover all of that over on my Andy Mac channel. If you're not already following that, by the way, do give it a follow, because all of the gardening content will now be over on that dedicated channel, because there's loads of stuff yet to be done in the garden, and that's probably one of the things that I'm most excited about the whole property. If you just search for @AndyMac on YouTube, you should find that channel, but there will be a link down in the description and in the kind of end bit of the video as well. But anyway, you've probably got a vague idea of what that grand total is now. We always thought this was going to be 100 grand renovation, and we weren't far out. It's come in so far at a total of £100,974.67. And you know, that is a crazy amount of money. We've had to beg, borrow and steal to make this work. As I say, we've downsized on 2 separate occasions, and you know, we're in our late 40s now. And to all you younger folk out there who are probably thinking, I'm never going to get on the property ladder, I'm never going to get to do a project like this. Well, I thought that 25 years ago when I first started getting into property development and property maintenance and all that sort of stuff. We've had to make a lot of sacrifices over the years. I worked a corporate job for a long time, and you know, we've just worked our way up the property ladder, and at the end of the day it's still just a 3-bed semi, but we've got a house that we're really happy with in a great area close to the local schools, and who knows where things will go after this. So yeah, don't get downhearted, just start small, build your way up. The first property I ever lived in on my own was in a council block of flats, and I loved living there. Nearly bought the property, to be honest. But from there, after a couple more rentals, I found an ex-council house that needed a lot of work done to it, and that was my first foot on the property ladder. So you don't just start by doing a project like this, but hopefully it's something that you can kind of build up to. And as I say, this certainly isn't the end of our property renovation journey, but we'll be here for a good while yet. But for you guys thinking of embarking on a project like this, hopefully this has opened your eyes a little bit as to how much it costs. I don't regret anything that we've done. There's a few minor design changes and things that we might have made. More about that on a future video as well. We'll give you a bit of an update a year or so down the line from the extension being finished. What would we change? What would we have done differently? But realistically, there's nothing major. Certainly nothing that would influence the costs in any drastic way. There's certainly a few things that we could have done that would have brought costs down a little bit, but that can be offset by all the work that we've done ourselves, where if we'd paid people to do those jobs, it would have cost a lot more. So I think 100 grand for a renovation like this, for a 3-bed semi, I think that's pretty realistic. 30 grand for the core renovation, 55 grand-ish for the extension, doing it as a self-build, and 15 grand-ish for fitting everything out. I think if you're looking around those sort of ballparks, I think you're doing pretty well. But if you have tackled a project like this and your costs have been radically different from our costs, I'd love to hear from you. Just post it down in the comments below. It would also be interesting to know what you thought this renovation was going to cost, so post that down in the comments below as well. Meanwhile, there's loads more to come, loads of tool reviews coming up. I've got a massive backlog of stuff I want to tell you about on that side. And folks, Christmas is rapidly approaching, and very exciting news. There's a new Gosforth Handyman tape measure on the shop, brand new design. We've still got the old ones as well, but there's not many left, so if you are looking to collect all the different designs, then now's probably going to be your last chance. But the new design is really nice. It's got a wider tang on the end, 4 rivets instead of 3, and it's now got little markings every 5 centimeters as well, and it's just had a bit of a design refresh. So they're on the shop now, limited stock, so if you want one in time for Christmas, I would suggest you get your order in as quickly as possible. Link in the description to the shop. The shop is just independently run by us. Mrs. Mac looks after that entire side of things. She does an awesome job, so thank you, Mrs. Mac, for keeping this show on the road behind the scenes. Thank you to all you guys as well, especially everyone supporting the channel on the member zone, because you are keeping this whole thing afloat. Without your support on the member zone, I just couldn't make videos like this. It takes so long to make. Anyway, folks, we'll wrap it up there because I've been blethering for long enough. Be nice to one another, look after each other. We shall see you next time. Tatty bye.